Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and we can get started. Welcome to Potter County Commissioners Court. It's Monday, October 25th, 2000. August. Oh, you're speaking ahead on another head on her, so excuse me. August 25th, 2014. We'll begin with prayer and pledge of allegiance, and county clerk will do with.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this sunny day that you've offered up to us, Lord. We just ask that you be with us today. We just ask that you be with our country, Lord. Guide us in every way that is possible. Ask that you be with the commissioners this morning as they make very important decisions for the county, for the people who work here, and for the people who live here, Lord. We just give this day to you. We ask that you be with us and guide us through the rest of this week. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Right, the first item on the agenda will be the approval of minutes from the August 11th meeting, 2011.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second. Okay, it's properly moved and seconded to accept the minutes, minutes as printed for the August 11th meeting. Those in favor, show of hands. It passes 4-0. Item 2, I'm going to do is take a couple of things out of order this morning. Item 8, the agenda will be the Amarillo Potter Events Venue District presentation of the budget, and presentation and consideration of the proposed 2014-15 budget of the venue district. Here, Ms. Bonner, coming forward. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Tom Bivens is also here, one of the board members, if you have any questions. Did you all see the handout?
We did.
Okay. I did a cover letter that kind of did a summary. If you'll turn to the second page of that handout, this is a summary of the budget, and then behind that we have all the details, so if you have any questions, we can flip through there. I'm going to work in the third column of that handout, which shows the proposed budget for 2014-15. We show that we're going to start the year with almost $2.8 million in fund balance. And if you look over to the right, historically the board has kept $500,000 of that as a reserve in case of an emergency. And then the balance of that has always been split 60-40. 60 between the Amarillo National Center and 40% between the city. So if you look at the Amarillo National Center balance of $955,862 and the city's balance of $1,308,725. The reason the city's balance is a little higher is they spent more on improvements at the ANC Center. And if you go back to that third column and look at your revenue, we have vehicle rental tax of $930,000, hot tax of $1,755,000, and that hot tax has been very strong, showing that predicting it's going to go up about 4.9% for next year. And then a small amount of interest, $3,032, and a miscellaneous revenue number of $67,366. That's for the event trust fund for the Adequan show. We applied through the state to get money back for that show, and you'll see in one of our expenditures, we then turn around and that money goes to AQHA to help fund that show. Total revenues of $2,758,000. If you look at your expenditures, we have a small amount for office and postage just in case there's an incidental. Your professional amount is $18,000, and that amount is actually associated with the Adequan show. $15,000 for a survey that's done. It has to be, when we do our application, we have to have a survey of the out-of-state attendees, and then $3,000 for the application. They help us with that application with the state. Your audit fee is $6,600, just projecting a 3% increase there. The line account, Amarillo Tri-State participation, $275,000, that's actually amounts that would be spent on the A&C Center for improvements. They've got a couple that they're looking at that they might do for next year. The A&C management contract, $328,000, that's just, it's paid to Tri-State, and that's to help fund the management of that facilities and the cost associated with the facilities. Property insurance for the A&C Center, $112,000. They have seen a significant increase in the property insurance, so the board has set aside $112,000 to help fund the property insurance. Management contract for the Civic Center is $398,000, and again, that's to cover the costs associated with the Civic Center piece. And remember, on the Civic Center piece, it's only the footprint that was paid for by the venue district. Those dollars are only used for that area, not for the whole Civic Center. Event development, $267,366. If you net that with the miscellaneous revenue, $67,366, that's $200,000, and those are events specifically associated with the A&C Center. And there is a list in the back if you want to go over it. Fiscal agent fees, $3,400, that's paid to the city to do all the bookkeeping. And then the Civic Center has asked for improvements of $350,000. $250,000 of that is carpet, $50,000 for a digital sign, and $50,000 for keyless entry. And again, that's only for the costs associated with the footprint.
Can I ask a question along those lines? So I was surprised to see the Civic Center improvements, and again, I was thinking of the footprint of the venue
Yes.
district. So will you help me kind of understand how the venue district funds can be utilized on Civic Center improvements that are happening downtown and really outside the footprint?
The original footprint, the original project had two pieces. The A&C piece, which is the Amarillo National Center, and the Civic Center. They actually built onto the Civic Center. So any cost that the Civic Center uses is only for the footprint over here. So there were actually two pieces of the venue district when we originally did it, and they did the original bond issue. And that's where the 40-60 split came from. It was from the original cost of those improvements.
Okay, I'm just visualizing the boundary of the footprint that I'm thinking through at the Tri-State Fair. And so understanding that there is a footprint at the Civic Center under the venue district is new to me, at least. So I was interested to see that.
Okay, yes, there's two footprints.
Okay.
So the original project, and then if you look, it's fourth to last page, but the carpet replacement, I believe, is only for the, I gotta make sure I say it right, heritage and hospitality rooms. So when we go back and reimburse those amounts to the Civic Center, we'll ensure that we're only paying for the footprint piece. So if there were other costs like associated with the digital signage, we won't be reimbursing for that.
Okay.
And then your largest expenditure is your debt service, just over $1 million, and that's to fund your two bond issues. For total expenses of $2,773,000. That gives you a net number of $14,927, and estimated reserve balances at the end of the year of right at $2,750,000. And again, those numbers are split. $500,000 is a designated reserve, $1,022,000 for the A&C, and $1,227,000 for the Civic Center piece.
Can you speak to any of the A&C improvements, the $275,000 that are slotted?
Right now, they don't have a list of improvements. I know they've done some sound design, but I believe there's a room there. They're wanting to make some improvements. They're still working on those, so as we work through those, they'll be presented and approved by the board, by the district board.
Do we need to approve the proposal? Or is that just information?
Yes.
Yes, we do need to approve. Yes.
Right,
I move to approve the proposed 2014-2015 budget of the Amarillo Potter Events Venue District.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the presentation of the Potter Indian District for 2014-2015. Those in favor, show of hands. Passes 4-0. And let's switch to item number 5. But Human Resources County Auditor, Payroll Accounting Period Adjustment. Mr. Geary enacted one recommendation by Human Resources County Auditor to adjust the payroll accounting period without changing the existing pay date. Jay?
Good morning.
Morning.
As you all are aware, we have been involved in an ongoing discussion about the payroll schedule for about a year now. And you should have in your board packets for today a copy of the memo that went out. It actually was directed to all department directors and elected officials as heads of departments. And they were, it went out on August the 20th in explanation of this ongoing discussion and notification that we were going to be talking about it this morning. Those department directors and elected officials were requested through the memo to disseminate the information to all employees so that they could help the employees understand exactly what was being discussed and so that we could move forward with clear understanding of the employees. Essentially, in a nutshell, Potter County has been paying on that semi-monthly payroll cycle with the payroll end date coinciding with the date paid. And therefore, there's been no period of time for processing those the payrolls. Consequently, there's about 7 days at the end of each payroll that is done in anticipation of time worked because we have to cut that payroll off in order to process through the banks. So that's been the crux of the ongoing discussion in order to attempt to get some processing time between the end of the payroll and the day paid. Back in February of this year, a committee had been formed, and that committee met and considered all of the discussion that had been going on and brought back a recommendation at that time to take no action at that particular moment, but ultimately to wait until such time as funds became available for a COLA, which is, a cost of living increase as seen fit by this Commissioner's Court, to be paid at that time in a lump sum for that fiscal year. And at the same time, or to coincide with the payroll modification pay period, the pay period in which that modification should occur, and in order to help bridge the gap for any a problem that the adjustment might cause or any shortage that the adjustment might be perceived as causing by the employee. And so, and finally, that the payroll process be changed in such a way as to leave the date paid exactly as it is, for employees to continue to be paid on the 15th day of each month and the last day of each month, as they always have been, for ease for them so they can keep their bills set up just the same that they have drafts and those kind of things set up on. But for the payroll end date to be moved back by 7 days in order to allow for that processing. Included in that packet was some examples. The first thing that you'll see, and you'll see it up on the screen, I have provided a side-by-side comparison of the payroll cycles both the current cycle that's shown on the left and the proposed payroll cycle that's shown on the right. You'll notice the first thing that I want to point out is if you look in the column shown as paid date, those paid dates are identical between the current payroll cycle and the proposed payroll cycle, indicating that the dates paid would remain the same. You will notice also though on the pay period that begins on 10/1/14 that the current payroll cycle shows an end date of 10/15, which coincides with the date paid as 10/15. However, the proposed cycle shows 10/1, the begin date, through 10/8, the end date, which is 7 days more brief than the current payroll cycle, with the proposed date paid as 10/15. Then you'll notice on the second payroll of that year, under the proposed payroll cycle, the payroll begin date picks up on 10/9. So there's no break. The payroll cycle just adjusts, and the begin and end dates are adjusted by 7 days on the proposed cycle, with the paid dates remaining the same. That does create on the first payroll cycle 7 days less time paid on the first payroll cycle of the proposed payroll cycle. That is where the committee came back with a recommendation to calculate the 2% COLA increase for the 14-15 fiscal year on each position, to tabulate that and to add it in an adjustment to that first payroll cycle. That's adjusting the first payroll cycle by the days actually worked, plus the across the board increase for the 14-15 year in a lump sum payment. That would create, in essence, very close to the same dollar amount for each employee that they would feel their payroll reduced by in making that adjustment. So that just helps to offset the change of the payroll schedule. Now, one thing we do need to be aware of is that since we are adjusting, or if approved, we would be adjusting the 2% COLA for just the 14-15 year. Then on October 1st of 15, salaries would have to be adjusted such that that 2% increase would be realized from pay period to pay period, because we adjusted only for the 14-15 year. And when you get an across the board increase, it begins at the time that it was that it's made effective and runs from that point forward forevermore. And so since the proposal is to calculate the amount that would be realized in the 14-15 year to pay in a lump sum to offset this adjustment, then we would still need to continue that 2% COLA from 10/1/15 forward for the employees, regardless of any other decisions that are made by the Commissioners Court for the up and coming fiscal year. Also included in that packet, if I can navigate, I included examples of what that adjustment might look like. And I used information as it appeared on the 7/15 payroll. The examples that I used are based strictly on gross wages because everybody's taxes are different and everybody's insurance deductions and retirement, optional retirement deductions and those things are different. So I base those examples on gross annual salary. And you'll see, if you want to walk through that example, we just start with the gross annual salary and calculate out the semi-monthly, which is what each employee receives, their gross payment for each payday. And then there's a weekly rate. You just calculate the yearly salary divided by 52 weeks, and that gives you a weekly rate to offset that 7-day weeks adjustment in the pay period. Then if you calculate the 2% COLA based on the annual salary for that particular position, that gives you the fiscal year 14-15 adjustment for that particular 2% COLA. Then the next section of that example shows how that first payroll would be adjusted if approved. It shows the gross pay minus the 7-day adjustment plus the 2% COLA for that position, and then a total on a total gross on the adjusted payroll. And you'll notice that it's slightly higher than what the semi-monthly gross payroll was, and that's the way it comes out in all of the examples that we ran. It varies a little bit from position to position, but in most cases, in all cases, it came out just slightly higher to offset for that adjustment. Then, of course, if approved, this proposed scenario, the remaining 23 payrolls for the 14-15 fiscal year, the pay that would be received would be the pay as it's set currently. That's before the 2% increase, because the proposal is to give the 2% increase for the year in one lump sum on that one payroll.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Sure.
right there? So the first payroll that would be received, should this take place, would be $13,1296, and that would be a slight bump, a slight increase to offset that.
Right.
But the remaining pay periods after the first check would revert back to the $1289.16
For this particular position.
for this
correct.
position.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Which is as it appears before the COLA increase.
Okay.
Now, any, wage verification or anything like that would be done on the adjusted gross income, because the annual gross actually is a higher amount. It's what they'll actually be paid, in annual salary for the year.
So do you think that it would be fair to say, I'm envisioning October of 15, when we finish that budget cycle, and if we are able to approve a COLA, I know that's a year to year, my feeling is that employees that would be a significant jump, because they have not felt the 2%, if you will.
Right.
And should we cycle back around and provide a COLA at that time, the impact of that would probably double, because they're seeing that 2%. Should we approve it? We may not approve a COLA next year. But I'm just kind of thinking through that logic, because they're only kind of feeling that jump the first pay cycle, and then after that, it reverts back to what they get paid
Exactly.
today. Is that right? Okay.
And the way that would work is we would have to adjust the 10/1/15 payroll to the payroll as approved currently in this cycle before any other percentage increase was added to the salaries. In other words, it would be, for example, if this court chose next year on 10/1/15 to approve another 2%, that 2% would be based on the 102% of this year's annual salary, that higher semi-monthly gross or annual gross that you see towards the bottom of this same example.
And should we use the same budget methodology, Carrie, I'm thinking through our worksheets that we spent going through last week, that would just be netted in, that would be baked in. That's not really a decision for the court, it would just be implied at that point after this budget cycle. Okay.
Yeah, we've already passed it.
Okay.
If we accept this year's budget.
Also, in this packet, I included 6 different examples of current positions and how they would be affected. And then I added a final worksheet, your worksheet, for the employee to be able to go back and plug in their annual salary and walk through that formula to determine what that would look like for them, because everyone's the impact on each person would be different depending upon their particular position and what their salary is. We did have some discussion about the memo that went out and its discussion. Again, we had, was a paragraph in the discussion document that led to a little confusion about hourly versus salaried employees. I think that was clarified. The differentiation between hourly and salary in the paragraph that was mentioned here were related to processes through our payroll system. Our payroll system applies the terms hourly and salary to positions as the way in which they're paid. For example, a position that's noted as salary in our database is calculated such that their normal pay for a semi-monthly payroll is assumed. And they're paid what their normal payroll is calculated to be unless we key a manual exception to that. Hourly, on the opposite side of that, in our database, that process term indicates that that position is considered to be paid, not paid at all, paid 0, unless we manually enter time worked for that person. So it's a matter of the processes. And so I think that's where the confusion came from initially. What will happen in this process is any positions that are considered hourly process positions, those are PRN, fill-in, extra help kind of positions. Those positions, we have no way of being able to calculate what that adjustment might look like for them up front, because they don't have normal work schedules. They work as needed or when they're called or fill in. And in some cases, they're even paid different wages depending upon who they fill in for. So it would be impossible to pay that COLA up front. It's really just a small number of employees and those that are not considered full-time. They're working on an as-needed basis, and those positions would be paid based on the number of hours they actually work during that first payroll, and their salary would have to be adjusted up front by the 2% in order to give them the 2% increase, and it would be paid throughout the year as opposed to in the lump sum. But only those employees that are considered hourly and work on an as-needed basis.
And so would that worksheet that you provided, would that methodology still coincide with hourly employees?
Those hourly employees don't have a regular work cycle. They don't always work 40 hours or even, in many cases, don't typically work that many hours. And so that was the rationale and the thought behind, there's no way to adjust those. And so they'll be, their salaries would be adjusted by the 2% at the beginning of the fiscal year, and their pay would be paid over the 23 or 24 payroll cycles throughout the year. There was also some concern that the annual salary, the W-2 annual salary, the amount received and actually noted on the W-2 would actually be less under their proposal. And that is indeed correct. It will show less because the last day of the December payroll isn't paid until January of the following year. So that 7-day adjustment moves a week's wage into the next year. So that does somewhat skew the W-2 salaries for the next year. The last issue that we saw that has come up is, and I believe Terry may be here to address that. Terry brought to my attention late last week that he's had some conversation with CJAD, which is their accounting folks, and their CSCD. They perceive some problem with paying that adjustment. So, and I would have to let him speak to that issue. But those were the only concerns, the real comments that I had from the memo that went out.
And Kay, on the last page, or second to last page of the packet that you provided, I'm not sure if you have that on the screen, with the insurance amounts.
I did not put it up on the screen.
Okay.
I didn't include it, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just kind of thinking through that logic, because again, I know there is a small increase that the employees will feel this year. And just to kind of continue the discussion of this employee and their first check would be $13.12. After that, it would net back to the $12.89.
Right.
For each pay cycle. And on the last page of what you provided in the packet is the health increase and the dental, the health premium and dental premiums. And the dollar amounts that you provided are monthly. And I'm, just for the sake of discussion, I'll just assume this employee is only insuring himself or herself, just for simplicity. So the health increase is $5 a month, so that would be $2.50 a pay period. And then the dental is $6.40 a month, so roughly over $3.
Right.
So the net impact of that would be about $6. Mm-hmm. And the county took on the increase, so the premium for just an employee, and this is just on medical, is $753, but we're picking up the $690.
Right.
Is that, am I thinking through that?
Yes.
Okay. So for this employee just insuring himself or herself, the check would be $12.89. Total premium on medical is $753. County's picking up $690, and there would be about a little bit close to $6 difference on their check.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
If I may,
You might come up to it.
I'm sorry, I wasn't. I wasn't able to come to you on Friday, but many of the girls that we work with in our department, they're insured, either themselves and their children or family, which the increase is quite a bit more, that they look forward to that COLA to offset that deduction, that additional deduction out of each pay period. So I agree that doing the 2% all in one lump sum will take away that loss of a week's pay, but over the next year,
actually their pay will be more like $37 or $30 because if they have, most of ours are family. And compared to if they got their 2% with each paycheck, that would offset that additional insurance deduction. So that's their concern right now, that, you know, they can see this happening, but at the same time, they're having to come up with an extra 35 or whatever dollars per month to offset what they won't get from the COLA. Just something to also think about.
Sure, and I'm, just to kind of continue that discussion, I'm looking at the increase on the, just family, because that's the biggest,
Yeah.
biggest increase, the employee and family. So if you net it out per paycheck, and let's just say they have health, medical and dental.
Yes.
Then that would be about $19.60, and I'm definitely, you know,
Yeah.
estimating, but that'd be about $19.60, the net effect on that paycheck per pay period. I'm looking at you, keep me honest, okay.
So that was their only concern about getting it all at one lump sum, that, okay, they'll take care of that week and they'll still get their, you know, they won't miss out on that. But to go back to what their regular salary is accurate, less the addition being taken out for the insurance.
I would say, just for the sake of comment, it does make me a little apprehensive if our employees are using the COLA to offset that, should the time come that we're not able to give a COLA. And because the county took our fair share of the increase, I would expect for the next several years for insurance to continue to increase. That's my own personal opinion. So if we are using that methodology, it makes me just a little apprehensive. Should we not be able to give a COLA, and should we not be able to take our fair share of the increase?
Terry, did you need to speak to that? Any? Yes.
Yes, Commissioners, when I received a notification that the department heads had, I forwarded that information to the Criminal Justice Assistance Division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. They're the ones who provide close to 50% of our funding that we use for salaries. You know, the county provides generous support in the form of office space, utilities, and office equipment. But the money that we use for salaries and other items is either self-generated through the collection of probation fees and other fees, and through state per capita funding. I spoke to Kerry about that situation. CJET indicated that they felt like the system that was proposed by the Commissioners Court would be a violation of CJET's financial management manual. Kerry advised me that she spoke with the county attorney's office and asked the county attorney's office to look into it. The initial report was the county attorney's office thought it might possibly be allowable, that they could work on that. But as yet, we have not gotten anything from the county attorney's office telling us that it is, that they think it can be allowable. And you know, if the county attorney's office thinks it's allowable, that's fine. But I've got to be a fiduciary responsibility to that state money, that unless I get a letter from CJAD telling me that they find it acceptable, then 75 of my employees, including myself, will not be able to implement that 2% offset for the pay period adjustment.
Do they feel that the lump sum is what is the problem?
I think that was part of it. I think their view is that it might be a bonus in some ways, paying it as a bonus, which is not allowable. They have definite terms under which a bonus can be given, and it cannot be an across-the-board situation. And that, I think, may be the biggest stumbling block, but may not be the only stumbling block.
Dave, do you want to shed any light on that?
No, I don't. I want Scott to share.
Scott, would you like to?
The reason I do is because Scott
Did you?
did a memo and done extensive research on that, and I think he responded to that concern.
Yeah, the bus wheels are very uncomfortable. And again, part of the reason I had an issue with a formal memo is I haven't seen what CJET is specifically saying. So at this point, I can only address what I addressed in response to Kay's question. If CJAD thinks that the lump sum payment would be a bonus, they're certainly entitled to conclude that way. I would simply disagree with them. I think but that being said, Terry isn't going to be bound by what the state tells him as far as what he can do with the state money. I think it's a question of who makes that determination, is whether there's a public benefit. The real question here is whether the payment would violate Article 3, Section 52A of the Texas Constitution, which prohibits making gratuitous dispersals of public money. The memo that or the opinion that we wrote, I still stand by that. I think the Commissioners Board has the authority, the discretionary authority to determine whether that would serve a public benefit, in this case in the form of trying to offset the detriment that the employees would face by having a particular paycheck that's 7 days short. And so I think that constitutionally I'm comfortable with the county doing it. As I stand here right now, I don't have an answer for what to do if CJAD says no, other than what Terry described, which is that the CSCD employees be 7 days short on the check.
I'm kind of interested in seeing why why CJAD thinks this would be a bonus, given what the overall sort of what we're trying to do in respect to offsetting that for our employees, not getting any more, but just leveling it out that they won't be hurt for that first 7 days. That would be
right. I'd be interested in seeing the reason as well, but because like I said, I'm kind of shooting in the dark right now until I would see, something more than we just think it's bonus. Okay, and I guess that binds us with regard to the state money, but until I've seen the authority they're relying on, I would say that as a general proposition, the Texas Supreme Court has relaxed the strictures that used to apply to this constitutional question in an opinion in 2002 that's described in I'll talk about the Texas Municipal League case. And basically what they say is that in order to find a public benefit has been conferred in the form of a payment, that there doesn't have to be a dollar for dollar quid pro quo. That the governing body, in this case the Commissioners Board for Brevard County, simply has to make a determination that a public benefit is the primary purpose of the expenditure. That a private benefit may accrue as a secondary matter if it doesn't drive the analysis.
And Scott, in terms of county funds, we are bound by the same statute or governance in reference to the bonus language. Is that correct?
Right.
So I
right.
think
Actually, the state is bound by a separate constitutional provision, but the language is the same.
Okay. So we're not seeing, from our perspective, that discussion around leverage or tipping point that this might be considered a bonus, and we've never entertained that thought.
Well, and that's addressed in that opinion, the issue of bonus. And ultimately, the conclusion is that is a determination for the Commissioners Court to make, that the public benefit is sufficient to justify the payment.
I just had a thought, which is kind of scary, but and I hope I don't encourage anybody to take this action. But say on October 1st, we get this lump sum. And that employee on November 30th or whatever quits. They've got the lump sum. They've got the 1 week pay too. So the person they hire back in will be at their old salary. But they've got advantage of the increase plus.
Right. The ultimate remedy for that would be probably, as I stand here thinking, the treasurer could direct us to try and pursue the overpayment form of suit, collection suit.
And Kate, isn't that similar methodology though, because we pay before work is actually completed today? That's the structure today, so we run that same risk today.
The time period is different in that the way that we currently pay, there's about 7 days that are anticipatory time like that. What we're talking about spreads over the course of the fiscal year. So the time periods are different.
Right.
But
You
it's
still
the
own
same
for the
methodology.
hours they work, it's what you have to try to get back as part of that.
Correct.
2%.
Right. That's correct. Certainly for wage employees, that's true. They need to be paid in the pay period, they need to be paid at the next paycheck for the work period that they completed. They need to be paid for the hours they worked.
So what you're doing is, I mean, and the point is right, that, you know, you're paying actually ahead now. So what you're doing by paying the bonus is cutting that risk off. And so if you have somebody that situation did happen, you would still be out less money than you would long term. So I mean, that's part of the equation that the commission is considering, whether it's public benefit or not, the limitations of risk going forward.
I don't have a copy of that opinion. If I can get, Texas Department of Criminal Justice to acquiesce on this, then we certainly would be happy to go with the county system. I would like a copy of that opinion that Scott wrote, and we'd be happy to forward that. And then maybe we can open up some negotiations with them. But it's the state of Texas.
Right.
So I've not found negotiation with them to be always that fruitful, but anyway. Yeah, exactly.
That's the ordinance.
Would it help if CJ had a copy of our proposal going forward from the committee and seeing all?
They were, Commissioner, I forwarded that to the financial board last week.
And Scott, you'll work with Terry in terms of giving the opinion should we move forward?
Yeah, that's right. I told Kay, if you would release, send a copy to my copy.
Okay.
I'll do that immediately when I get back to my office.
If the committee, this is an overall question, were they comfortable with the decision that was made as part of the presentation that you just did?
Yes, this was the recommendation of that committee back in February. And at that time, there was discussion in court, and the matter was tabled until such time as the finances were available to give the 2% COLA. So consequently, when this court approved the 2% COLA, it was incumbent upon me to bring that back up and ask this court, is that what you desire to do at this time?
Were there any other complaints from the employees on what we're maybe going to do, other than one we just heard?
Just what I have discussed with you this morning. I believe I've mentioned everything that came in. There was some discussion, again, that the W-2 figure would be less, which is accurate because of the 7 days being moved into the next year. And, I think as far as I know, the communication, the discussion document was reasonably well received and understood. I have not heard a lot of communication to the adverse, except what we've heard this morning.
If anybody would like to, certainly speak to that, we have several directors here. Any feedback from employees that we need to be mindful of?
We just got that Thursday, so we really hadn't told all of our employees to have it in our mustard or whatever, so get it on Thursday, we just had Friday, which we haven't told everybody.
Okay, Considering where we are in this whole evolution discussion thing, we're gonna just table this, all right?
That's up to you guys.
We haven't got all the information in, and, can we make it
We really need to do this. If
We
you're
need to
not
do it.
gonna do it, you need to do this today.
Okay.
But I do think that's a valid point in terms of when the information has gone out to the directors on Thursday and having one business day to really educate employees. We certainly want to be mindful of that first go around. It was a little bumpy, obviously, and we're really not trying to do this without full participation of the employees. What kind of undue stress for a timeline should we consider this at the next court?
I know Gary was kind of anxious over delaying the decision beyond this court date, or is that something that we have a drop dead date that we can actually look at as far as approving this or not, for the overall budget?
It's really gonna be a matter of processing time for HR. But we have until October
October the
10th or
For cutoff. If this is approved, every payroll record will be touched in the process, because every record will require a couple of separate manual adjustments, and so it will take some additional processing time. We'll do what we need to do to get it done, and actual cutoff is the 10th, I believe. Of course, if we can get it a little sooner, that would be better. It would give us more time to process, but if we could have it by the 10th.
So what kind of changes do we anticipate we're gonna make to this whole project?
It will allow processing time between the end of the payroll and the day paid, which will eliminate in the future, after this 1 year that's affected, it would eliminate that anticipatory time. There would no longer be any anticipatory time paid.
This question I'm asking is, if we approve this today, what difference will it make if we waited another 2 weeks? What differences could there be?
The only difference that I'm aware of it would be the determination that CJAG or the state comes back with CSCD. As it exists today, based on the information that we have thus far, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, as it stands today, if they don't change their opinion on it, CSCD would not have the luxury of the one-time lump sum, but those employees' salary would be increased over all 24 payroll cycles.
Well, our county attorney just gave us his opinion, and he thought this was okay the way we're handling this. Am I correct?
Yes.
Oh.
But I think the consideration that the commissioner indicated, that we wanted to make sure that the employees and the directors have had enough time to share that with their employees, and that may not be the case as we sit here today. So
We'll just, for the be devil's advocate, say some of the employees don't like it, what are we gonna do about it?
hopefully the committee has already come up with an alternative, another option, alternative to that.
It's no way this way, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I think ultimately the decision will obviously lie on the courts, what we're prepared to do. But I do think the first attempt of this was bumpy, as I said, but for different reasons. I think the committee has come back with a really strong solution in terms of keeping the pay cycles the same. That was really a main concern for those auto drafts and what was already set up. And the actual dollar amount, so that they're not feeling 5 days less of pay or 7 days in that window, and a very valid point. So I think the committee has come back with solutions to that. I think ultimately it's just allowing the employees time to kind of vet this through and what this looks like for them. And I would expect some to agree, and I would expect some to
Well, let me ask
disagree.
this, let me ask this, to the directors that are here today, and, given what you've heard, what you have, even though it was just delivered to you as past Thursday, considering the pulse of your employees, do you feel that this would be something in consideration that would be more positive than negative?
I think it'd be negative.
Yeah, well, I think they're not gonna, as a general rule, any policy change as it drives
Well,
pay
that's
is
true.
difficult.
I think the case said that the overall suggestion was to not change it, but if you had to, go through the recommendations. My staff, as I've said before, is really just because they make the lease and it determines it's the lease they get, they do not feel an increase.
But they did not feel an increase, but would they be a detriment as far as feeling a decrease?
Oh, I think they feel an increase. They're just resigned to it, they think it's gonna have to, but then, you know, what do I do? That's being honest.
Well, it's something that has to be done eventually, and this is a pretty good time, I think, to get this thing taken care of.
Thought y'all want some feedback from the department there.
Yes.
For over the last 3 years, I think that, I'll start out by saying I'm a business major, and I'd have to say paying out what we're paying out is really probably not good business practice. But the effect of that over the last 3 years has been less than $1,100. My employees don't like it. The fact of the matter is, how you slice it, dice it, call it whatever, each employee is gonna lose a week worth of salary that you used to get. Bottom line. You're adding a 2%, you gave them 2% COLA, then divide it over 24 pay periods, it would be a certain amount. You drop a week out, you're dropping a week out of their paychecks for this year, period.
What if we didn't give the COLA? Where would we be then?
When would you what?
What if we didn't give the COLA?
I understand, then that would be even further in the
We're
hole.
getting to the point where we can't please anybody.
No, I'm just saying, Commissioner, I'm just saying the practicality of it to the employee is 2% is covering really for a parent who's covering their family, it's $37.23 a month. So 40 times 12 is $480. So primarily for a lot of folks, the 2% COLA is gonna cover just that. So they're gonna lose a week worth of pay. But they're gonna get it the next year, and they're gonna get it after that and after that. But as far as this year's concerned, they'll lose a week's worth of pay. They're not happy about it. By that same token, I think y'all doing what you have done or plan to do, looks like with the paying it up front, is gonna be something that can help them make that bridge to the end. What the employees need to realize is that for those that are in, wherever they're at in the chain in insurance, when they get that first paycheck that's got the 2% in it, they need to be prepared to save that much money to cover the shortage in the rest of the 23 paychecks. And as a practical matter, business management, that's what's gonna have to be done. Or else their check's gonna be a little bit lighter than even what it's been this year before the goal.
But in the whole scheme of things, putting this, top end, front end, this would be better than not having that, being able to have this 2% put on the top end, front end versus not having it.
I mean, I'd rather have my money up front, because I'm gonna manage it. Some folks just look at the paycheck, and that's one thing, in talking to some other business people that have done similar things like this, employees tend to just look at the paycheck and see that it's less than what they got last year, and they don't realize what all taking place. So I think some department heads have some obligation to make sure you can't just look at the paycheck, you gotta look at the overall plan about what's going on. And the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, there's a 2% COLA, so everybody's salary's going up 2%. It's gonna be short 1 week though. So, what I can tell you is a little disagreement among employees. I guess it's up to y'all to decide whether that's worth it and getting to a better business practice. than the $1,100 we've lost over the last 3 years. And that's y'all's decision. So, and one other thing, I found out Thursday that Commissioner Vaughn, you recognized me at the meeting at the budget the other day, and I thought so. And as soon as I got told that, I thought something about that up when payroll came up. I gotta tell you, I didn't hear you. So, and I know exactly when it happened because everybody's kind of looking at me. And I thought, well, I thought I heard my name mentioned, but I don't know what it's about. So I didn't say anything. But if y'all say something to me and I call my name, something, and I don't acknowledge it, then I didn't hear you. Because I would at least say, Commissioner Vaughn, appreciate being recognized, but I don't have anything to say this morning. So I want to make that clear. I want to apologize to you for that. I wasn't snubbing. I just didn't hear you. That room is horrible for me to hear, especially when the speakers are turned out to the outside walls instead of toward the people for us to be able to hear. So,
Considering all the medical problems that you've been through the past few weeks,
lawyers never going to be speakers.
But Randall, I do think Randall made a good comment in terms of educating as department heads do that, because I don't know that we do that well in terms of the employees identifying that a COLA is really, a nice on the top. That cannot happen every year. I think this court has been consistent and being mindful of the employees. And in regards to the health insurance, I would say the industry locally, the employees have felt the increase of that share. I don't personally know of a lot of employers that have taken on that increase. They have pushed that all to the employees. So I do think those are all good benefits, but I agree with you, most see the net effect of that paycheck and what does that look like. So I think part of that for leadership is educating the employees, because I do think a county as a whole, we do right by our employees. And I'd agree with your comment. The feeling is we can't please anyone, which is a very frustrating feeling, especially after the budget cycle that we just came off. We were able to do some really aggressive things this year. So it is a frustrating feeling after the fact, but thank you for that.
Now, I want to tell y'all, this budget cycle went through all the ones I've been around, the easiest and fastest ever. And I'm going to attribute that to y'all's leadership about where everything's at. The Commissioner's Court overall, in the 30 years I've been around Potter County, except for just a few years, has done a tremendous job of, in my opinion, trying to take care of the employees when they can. I went through years in the 80s and early 90s. I believe it was about 5 years we didn't get anything. So I understand the other end of the stick, and I also understand what those times when that was happening, the commissioners, like all the department heads, I believe, are going to try to do what they can do to best help their employees. And like y'all are trying to do, but the money just wasn't there. And they're having to do tax increases and the money's still not there, wasn't it? So from a business standpoint, I believe the county has been run very well over the last 30 years, but particularly in the last, I'm going to call it since Judge Ware took over, been very impressed with how the courts handled the budget situation and things for the employees. That said, it's also up to, well, no, we're going to talk, I'll talk about that later. I got something to say is department heads, later on talking about it.
Okay.
We printed off the memo from Kay and we went over it with every one of our employees. They didn't particularly like it because it was going to be a pay cut when the insurance kicked in, but they understood it. We even used an example in our office where we had a young man that quit to go back to school. His last day was on the 15th, and he chose to not come in that week. He would have been paid anyway. And yeah, it's tough. But I think if we can explain it in a manner that the employees understand the whole picture. They were really relieved when they knew on October 2015 that 2% was going to come back into their check. They said, okay, we understand this, we're getting all of it this year, and then coming October next year, then we'll see it in our check. So sometimes it's a matter of the presentation. Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
I have a question about you said the W-2s are gonna be less this year? If it goes into effect, I mean, you're taking a week away, but you're also giving them the COLA.
If the W-2 dollar amount will be less as opposed to
2%.
not making any change to the payroll cycle and giving the 2%. The reason for that, even though the 1 week is a little bit slightly more than, I mean, the adjustment for the 1 week is slightly more than what they would have received for that week, because the fiscal year runs from October through September, and part of that year is in each calendar year. So between those two things, it works out where it's, the W-2 gross amount will be slightly less than it would have been with no changes.
Right, so really they're not gonna see a change, I mean, a slight change, maybe dollars on the W-2 for this coming December 31st, end of the year, because of the fact that you're taking away a week, but you're putting it back in there with the COLA.
Right, but
That's not
because
the
of,
reason.
because of the timing, it will, on the W-2, it will actually make a few dollars difference in the W-2 gross salary for the year, because that's based on a calendar year. And what we're talking about, these adjustments that we're talking about are based on a fiscal year from October through September. So
But if you're telling your employees that the W-2 is gonna be less than, you know, this year or whatever, they're gonna not understand. Because in fact, you're replacing what you're taking at 7 days, you're replacing it with the COLA. So the W-2 should not change this year, even though they get this COLA.
The reason the W-2 will be less is because your pay periods, W-2 started January 1st this year, but it will end December 23rd, not December 31st.
Right.
So that's why there will be a difference in the W-2. In the past, it's went January 1st to December 31st. It's numbers, they'll never realize it, it's just numbers. It's all in paper.
Anyone else want to speak to that, Jerry? A little bit, you want to speak?
Captain or Chief Johnson is right. The W-2 that they receive at the end of this year will be slightly higher than the one they received last year by the difference in that lump sum payment.
So in the example that's on the screen, Carrie, it would be the 1312 minus the 1289. That's the amount higher that they would expect to receive on that W-2.
Right, if their salary had had no changes prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
Chief. Sure.
Chief, I'm just gonna have to agree with everybody that, and I know that's kind of weird, but I'm gonna agree with both the district clerk and Ms. Taylor. I believe that it's all in how you present it. And that's why, we haven't had a chance. I mean, we got 260 employees in 3 different shifts. So we're gonna get each one of our shifts. We were busy Friday, we weren't able to do that. You're correct as well in saying, what difference does it make? Whether we do it or not, it's still gotta be something that's gotta be done, but I also agree that it's gotta be done in a way that they'll understand. You just go in there and say, okay, this is what happened, and call it done. So
Well, let me say this.
I apologize, we just haven't had a chance to get it done. But we've got it on our agenda this week.
Does the court want to take consideration considering that all employees have not been informed yet? Leave the nation pretty much know what we have to do as a court, one way to make a decision. Is this something that we want to delay for? I have some concerns about delaying it till the next court session.
The only examples that we see here, nobody's hurt. None of these examples show anybody getting hurt. Excuse me? Okay.
My department may very well suffer.
Mike Taylor.
But then also, what the heard, Scott, from a legal perspective, represent the court, we pretty much down solid ground as to make a decision one way or another.
Right, that's my legal opinion. Of course, the state may differ, but, right.
Okay. And bring us, Board, there's an option of maybe delaying this on, have we, determined when we're gonna have another public meeting beyond
They both fall on Commissioner Court's date and,
The next one would
except
be
for
the next hearing, we've got a tax hearing on the 8th, which is Commissioner's Court.
and then we have the final, I think, on the 11th.
Yes.
Is that right, Commissioner? That's the odd hours. So our next scheduled meeting is September 8th, and that's the.
Listen, I'm even open to, for all consideration, to say that we basically, fire department, have a call meeting before the next, Commissioner's Court, to have this only on the agenda, to discuss it and allow the directors time enough to share that with their employees, and also hopefully that would be a, nation from the state with respect to what, Mr. Keisha is concerned about as far as employees and where they are. I'm not sure if that would give that time, but I'm certainly open for a call meeting for that purpose.
So Commissioner, to that discussion point, next Monday is a holiday, is Labor Day, so should we entertain that? We may be looking at next Tuesday, which is September 2nd. If you're wanting to allow them a week lead time.
That should be sufficient. That would be enough adequate time for the directors, and hopefully we may have a decision in from the state at this time as well. Is that something that the board would consider?
Well, I think that would be probably a good, maybe get this thing done Tuesday, is that what you're saying?
Next Tuesday, right after the holiday.
And personally, I don't think anything's gonna change. However, if we want, the court wants to allow that, then let's do it Tuesday.
All parties want to, yeah, okay. Is that Commissioner?
Unless we wanna take a vote. Anybody interested in taking a vote?
Taking a vote on moving the meeting?
No.
Just making sure I'm confirmed.
I'd vote if there's a motion.
Okay,
I'm
gonna make a motion that we approve the, as presented by.
Can you don't talk about success well?
You trumped his suggestion, Commissioner.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to accept the president's proposal, by the Human Resources to adjust the payroll accounting period without changing the existing pay days. So the second to that effect, all those in favor, show of hands. Those opposed? Okay. We go straight to- Now,
So next Tuesday.
my recommendation for a call meeting for next Tuesday. We can even have an evening or rather it just doesn't matter.
9 o'clock, Tuesday.
Okay.
Just.
All right.
Tuesday the 2nd at 9 a.m.
And Commissioner, I would add, just for the sake of a comment, I think that vote really speaks to, we really are trying to be intentional about this process and not haphazard into that. So I hope that's part of the education that goes to the employees, because they really only get the information from you as department heads unless they're watching this online or they happen to hear of something after. So we really encourage you, leadership, to really help speak to that vision of where we're moving to as a county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item number 2, the budget is to consider and act upon the approval of budget amendments for the current fiscal year.
I make a motion that we accept the budget amendments as presented.
Second. Motion and second to approve the budget amendments as presented. Those in favor, show of hands. Passes 4-0. Thank you. Item number 3 is vouchers. Consider and act upon Approval of the payment of vouchers processed by the county auditor's office for the period of August 6, 2014 through August 19, 2014. Total checks for 157309 through 157655, and wire number 421 through 429 in the amount of $2,649,270.06.
I move we pay the vouchers as presented.
Second for discussion.
Just have one question of the court, page 16 of 34, check number 157528, Auto Clear, annual maintenance agreement in the sheriff's office, 2000. I just wanted to confirm what this agreement is.
This is so we can see clearly.
What does Auto Clear, the vendor, do for us?
It's actually on our X-ray machine over at the district court's building. It's a maintenance agreement that we have with them.
The X-ray machine in the district court?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's just a maintenance on here.
Thank you.
I have one question on page number 17. Check number 157547, Deborah Morgan going to San Francisco. What is she going to San Francisco for? What's so special about there that can't be taking place in Texas?
We actually had several court orders go to training out there. That's where they had their annual meeting this year.
We don't have anything in Texas,
I don't know, haven't looked at their schedules.
so quite an expensive trip. I just kind of wondering about that.
Remember, Commissioner, everything Texas is, it has everything does involve.
I realize that, we're gonna have some commissioner stuff in San Francisco. Working on it.
That ain't gone bad.
Anyway.
That's the last few days. Okay. Anything else, in regards to the voucher report? Okay, we got a motion and a second on the floor. Those all in favor, show of hands. Okay, passes 4-0. Thank you. Item number 4 is to recognize the insurance fund report. Kay, anything you want to speak to that?
No, sir, there's nothing remarkable.
Okay, thank you very much. So recognized. Item number 6, to recognize the monthly treasurer's report. Anything?
Just give you today's totals. In tax pool, we have $2.4 million. Our A and B general account have $11,844,855.05. So our total cash is $26,267,488.20. And totally right now in investments, I have $14,422,633.15. I'll get all that.
That's the last quarter.
It's kind of been volatile again. Next poll went down to 2, but it's back up to 4. So, it's just roller coaster. By the time you think you're making headway, then you slip back and you breathe back toward, but as far as anything advancing or it totally improving, we're okay.
Is that a daily figure? The text rule, is that a daily figure you give us?
Right. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So recognized. Item number 7, tax office sale of property. It is to consider and act upon a request from the tax assessor collector to sell a piece of property located at 1000 on Market Road 1912 as a private sale. There.
This is a property I'm glad to get rid of. It's 20 acres with a rundown truck stop. I would like to thank the sheriff's office for patrolling that area a little more, kind of keeping an eye on it. We did have a report of vandalism shortly after it was struck, and so Sergeant Buckles increased patrol over there. Then we had a fireworks stand open up, and Chief Blake, thanks to him, he went out and found out who the owner was for us. And then Dave Kim contacted that owner, and this is the result. That's what I like to think.
Everybody working together?
Everybody worked together.
For a significant dollar amount,
Yes.
50,000, wow.
I move we approve the sale of the property located on 1000 Farm Market, 1912.
Second that. It's been moved in motion, seconded to sell the property located at 1000 Farm Market Road, 1912. Those in favor, show of hands. Okay, passes 4-0. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Item number. We don't want to take some of the, I mean, once you come back to this, let's do that. Let's do item number 10. Childhood Cancer Awareness Month resolution. Is to consider act upon adopting a resolution recognizing September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month.
This request we got in from, or we in the county judge's office, got in asking us to put this on the agenda, and we just decided to go ahead and put it on the agenda, so we not have to pass it. I mean, it's just a support, but I know it's a legitimate request, a legitimate event to request that it's met to that extent, but you know, having no guidance really about what else to do about the item, I just put it on for your consideration. So if you want to pass it, you certainly may. It's like any other resolution, it doesn't really have any binding force, just kind of expression of the will.
I think it's time that we can bring awareness to what they can certainly into our population, especially for us, the child care. It's always the thing.
I'll make a motion that we adopt this resolution for September as Child Cancer Month, Awareness Month.
Second?
Okay, it's been motion and seconded to approve the resolution for adopting September as Childhood Cancer Month by this Commission's Court Awareness Month. Those in favor, show of hands. Okay, passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, if I may, I'm just thinking through other resolutions that we passed for awareness. I think it might be a good, kind of goodwill to maybe partner even with just our website or anything that we can do to just really promote the resolutions that we've passed. I don't know if we have this down on a calendar, but I'm thinking through other awareness resolutions we've passed and really to echo Commissioner Vaughn's comment around building awareness. So I think that would be a quick, easy enhancement to that.
Item number 11 is the County Clerk's Records Archive Plan, and it's to consider act upon adopting County Clerk's Archive Plan for the years 2014, 2015 annual budget.
This is just, in addition to the 2009, I started collecting a $5 fee in our official public records. And so we continue to use that to work indexing historical documents at this point in time, trying to get everything digitized and indexed so it's easier to find.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Is this plan an echo of last year, or is it enhancing to the plan? I'm thinking through what was submitted.
It's pretty much an echo of last year, and what we've also done, we've kind of created, we've created a separate indexing department, so I currently have 3 ladies just strictly working on that indexing, and it's amazing what they've been able to get done when it's just their sole purpose.
And do you think that will be continuous, or is that just to catch up the records?
No, that's continuous at this point in time.
Okay.
And it's all funded, well, not their salaries, but as far as being able to put the stuff on our website or on the records program, that's all funded with that records archive.
And does it make a difference for the general public coming to request those records? Are they able to get them quicker?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yeah, because if not, then they're having to go and use microfilm or use old indexes, so yes, it does make a huge difference.
Oh, okay.
We officially adopt this?
Yes, it's every year as part of the budget.
I move that we adopt the County Clerk's Archive Plan for the year 2014, 2015.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and motion seconded to approve of the adoption of this budget. Those in favor, show of hands. Passes 4-0. Item 12, health damage project. Is considered an act upon approving expenditure of $33,000 with Alon LPE for the replacement of flooring at the county extension office utilizing the Board job order contract number 2012 area I-TAL. Funds to be used from the jail claim reimbursement and the rest to be determined.
I included a little write-up of the history of this project. This was damage received to the county extension office as a result of the May 28, 2013 hailstorm. I guess hail didn't cause this, it was actually the water that ran into the building and ruined some of those carpets. The Texas Association of Counties did give us a portion of money to replace partial parts of that flooring that was damaged, not the entire building was damaged. And I know that there was already some discussions in place about going ahead and replacing that flooring before that storm happened. So we went ahead and got a quote to replace the entire building, and this figure includes them moving furniture, tearing all the carpet out, disposing of the old carpet and the old VCT tile, as well as the baseboards around the walls. And then the insurance has given us $13,700 roughly, so the unfunded portion is around $19,000. So we need to find somewhere for that to come out of if you did approve that today.
And Carrie, are there any suggestions of a line item other than contingency that, or building maintenance?
I would recommend that you go ahead and take it out of the same account as that actual insurance work, just our claims, our insurance claims account.
And there's sufficient dollars in that to offset that?
Yes.
Where do we stand with that amount, Jerry, as far as the amount?
Just under, well, we need to do an adjustment for unearned revenue for insurance money we got last year, but it'll put us at about $150,000 to the good in that account.
Mr. Canidi, any more questions? So the floorboards are gonna, or the trim around the floors are gonna meet the floor? All the base? Yes, sir.
And we have done walkthroughs, I'll just speak to this, Mike, because we have done walkthroughs with the agents. They have very much been a part of this process of what path should be tile versus carpet in terms of the traction, what they're kind of bringing in the office. And also looking at any tile around the entry points where there may be run into water, other things that we know have going on in that building. And so a lot of that had already been evaluated, and here came the storm. So it was an item that we were positioning to prepare the Corps in future budget years of what that might look like. So this amount is certainly smaller than what was anticipated and to offset that. But they-
Mike, have we resolved the flooding issue?
No, sir, unless we have the drought or something like that. I went out and took a video of during one of those heavy rains about 2:31 morning. And I'll still say if we could clear all the shrubbery and all the greenery off of that chain link fence on the west side, it's gonna help relieve a lot of it. That trapped a lot of water up adjacent to the area. What's happening up around the building itself, the water is still coming down around, the building, running up around the structure. That is where I presented to you the water collection system this year's budget. Y'all asked me to get with Nathan and look at a grant for that. I think one of the things we can at least attempt to do is clear some of the greenery around the chain link fence out there that will help this situation.
Well, I hate to see is put all this work into the flooring and then have another flood, which is possible.
It can happen. I mean, there's so many different things you could do. We could remove all the landscape around the building, shed water away from it, which originally should have happened. Put in water collection system, redirect all your downspouts in your gutter. I think what little steps we've looked at and everything, you know, it could help the situation. I'm not gonna guarantee it will say we'll never have any.
And we talked back when those storms came through about putting up a wall of some type to disperse that water. Is that still something that we need to look at?
I think with the I visited with Nick on this and Sebastian out there, you know, if we still feel it's needed to go through and clean out that ditch line through there to shed the water out 10th Street, that is the lowest line area downtown, of that area out there is at 10th, that intersection directly west of there. We can get the water on the first line of defense out to 10th Street, and that would help. It's the water that's coming down adjacent to the building that also creates a problem of running right back into the building. There's just so much you can do out there to address the situation. It's just, when are we gonna do it?
And Commissioner, I meet with them monthly, so we'll definitely get that back on the radar, and Mike, I may engage you and Sebastian or Roger to kind of start thinking through some of those initial steps to see if there's any impact on that, and then if we need to potentially bring something back for budget next year, we'll start thinking through that.
Didn't y'all looked at that out here as far as clearing that out?
Yeah, I think where we run into, like Mike is saying, water that moves from 10th Street, 10th and Grand, passes by the extension agent building. We have water that comes off of the entire parking lot of the fairgrounds building and goes to that same point. That point is actually lower than the street level. So until we can do something about the street level exhausting the water that we're putting in that location, it's gonna continue to collect there before anywhere else on that property. So, in this case, sump pumps or an additional drain that's put in, but then again, we're getting into the fairgrounds property, the city's property, and then our property. So I at this point, I don't think there's a quick fix for anything. Even if we were to build a wall there, we would still trap water in on our property, like Mike said, from the building.
Well, I had the privilege of working out there for a few years, and we never had the flooding problem until those trumpet vines grew up over on that west link fence, because that water would collect on that lawn and go out through the fence and go out. So I think that those trumpet vines are holding back a lot.
And that's what I've seen that night after winter.
Who do they belong to?
Who does the trumpet vine belong to?
Yeah.
Fairgrounds. They
I
planted
guess you can cut them out of there?
Or we need to do something to at least try to help address the situation. But no matter what we do, that is still the lowest line area throughout our fairgrounds. Took all the old Raskin Coliseum away, all watershed that way.
Everything from the ANC comes up.
Comes up from the regular discussion.
And so Commissioner, if I may, when we position for that meeting, I'll certainly engage you. I love your expertise on that building. Thank you.
All right, go ahead and act on that.
I make a motion that we approve to supplement the unfunded portion, $18,991.34, and funds to come from insurance claims account for the extension office project.
Second.
Okay. You think, Julie?
Yes.
Motion's on the floor and seconded, to approve of that, factory to fund that project. The amount that Commissioner Wood has already indicated. Those in favor, show of hands. That's 4-0. Right. Item number 13, equipment purchase. Consider and act upon the following. Item A, the purchase of a tractor from Western Equipment in the amount of $28,885.17, utilizing contract number TXAMAS-7-51B050. I'm gonna go ahead and name the whole list up here. Item B, the purchase of a Tortello from Roofmaster Products Company in the amount of $5,527.45. And item C, in the purchase of 2 Cisco routers from CDW-G in the amount of $20,520.42 from contract number DIR-7DD-1381.
These are 3 purchases from the equipment that you wanted us to get out of this year's budget for the next fiscal year. These are these are pieces of equipment that are over that $5,000 threshold that I have to bring back for your approval as per policy and under law. And, we've shopped these and they're all under budget from what was set for that budget, so we're asking permission to buy
We've already discussed this at the budget area, so it's just a matter of approving us.
And Carrie, would they come from which account? The equipment repair and replace?
We're putting a budget adjustment together to bring to you guys with all this equipment. I believe Road and Bridge can probably come out of there. We'll move the money from road repair supplies. I believe he has ample in that account. And Jason's will probably have to take out of contingency.
And so in terms of the motion, would we just approve the purchase and then the budget adjustments will speak to the funds? Is that appropriate?
You moving?
Oh, yeah, no, the money side. Just get the best deal.
All right, let's take off real. I move we approve the purchase of the tractor from Western Equipment, purchase of a tar kettle from Roadmaster Products Company, and the purchase of 2 Cisco routers from CDWG.
Okay, I second that. Motion on the floor and second to approve those three purchases. Those in favor, show your hands. Passes 4-0. Okay. Item number 14 is a surplus property auction. Is to consider an act upon approving the attached list of surplus property items that are no longer usable to be sold at auction.
You have a list of auction items attached. We put this together over the last month or so, and we're ready to have a surplus auction. We have emailed all the department heads and allowed them the opportunity a week to come out and view anything that they wanted to take. And we've let the departments come out and switch or take whatever they want to. And so this is the item still left over, so I'm just getting your permission to go ahead and sell these.
David, we also talked about emailing local nonprofits as an additional kind of public benefit prior to these going out for auction.
It's actually after they go out for auction.
Okay.
Any items left over that don't sell at that point,
Okay.
we had notified them we could donate it to them if they wanted to.
And that process still occurs.
It's a live auction.
No, we use an online auctioneer, actually out of Dallas that facilitates this, and it's just like. And we actually have quite a few people from Dallas, Houston that actually drive all the way here to get started.
I make a motion that we approve the list of surplus property items that are no longer usable to be sold at auction.
Second. Okay. Motion floor to approve the attached list of surplus property items that are no longer be sold at auction. So second, those in favor, show your hands. Passes 4-0. Okay. Item 15, Potter County projects, to hear a report on various Potter County projects, taking action necessary tonight.
Okay. Went on ahead and gave each one of you a handout. Normally I just give verbal during this last court meeting month. We had so many changes. If you please look at that on the first page, the first item I'd like to address would be the courthouse preservation. Let you know how the warranty claim number 55 is completed. That is the wing sections right here that is adjacent to you. This is what your new tops will look like for Julie number 7. Throughout, as well as all courtrooms throughout the building. We have already started warranty claim number 37 with Rester Haas. They have come in and started, they have actually measured Julie's area up here on the second floor to replace hers. We're waiting on a schedule to find out when they will be here installed. The third page, Santa Fe elevator shift project has been completed on the 20th of this month. Our elevator consultant will be here tomorrow for his final inspection. Santa Fe elevator modernization project, we're at 70% on design. I'll also be going through that tomorrow with the elevator consultant. I'm gonna come back to the May 23rd hail damage right there and go ahead and skip to the next page. The May 23rd hail damage non-emergency projects for the fairgrounds. We have reviewed the proposals. David and I are waiting on the newest ones to come in from the Gordian Group and Talon to address items 1 through 6. Hopefully we'll be able to bring that to you at the next board meeting. Volunteer fire station. We have actually completed the topo out there. It's already been sent to the architect. Last week, Pat Fitzpatrick and I went to Lubbock to have a meeting with Parkhill, Smith and Cooper to kick this project off. They have received all the required documentation. I'd issued them the notice to go ahead and proceed after I'd issued that stop notice back last year, December. So we are well on track. I've given you a handout there, if you'd please reference that. This right here is our anticipated timetable on the project as it stands, knowing that it very well could change at any time. The critical dates is what's indicated there in red. What you see in red is just showing what I'm requiring the architect to change and reflect those actual dates. But the critical time period is going to be up around December of this year for us to complete the design on the project. Hopefully we'll be gearing up to go out for bids at that time. So right after the first of the year, so hope to kick the project off. And when you look at the project duration right here, you're looking at around, what, 3 or 4 months to actually design this small project. And then by the time you go to bids and to construction and actual completion, you're looking, well over a year away. That's the nature of the beast when you do these projects.
So Mike, I have a question, just to make sure I'm following the schedule. So what phase in here, I think it's the proposal phase, but where's the timeline where we'll actually turn the dirt?
I'm gonna probably say it'd be up around January or so. I'll visit with the architect. We discussed this the other day when we were in Lubbock, and when we could do that, we actually could go out before the road and bridge clears the property, just depending on when you wanna do it. Pat has been working with Sebastian and Roger on getting out there to clear all the mesquite off of the property. I mean, we could actually do it before then if you chose to.
Well, and I'm thinking from the court's perspective, because this is certainly a huge move. We may need to do something ceremonial around it and to build some awareness to the general public. Commissioner, you will take the lead on that, but this is a huge step for Potter County.
Yeah, I think that's although we promote that, what we're doing in this county and expect to, that encourage, I think will be a plus.
Richard.
I had a discussion with Pat about that on Friday, about actually having a scheduled groundbreaking ceremony. And we're in the process right now of picking out a piece of land on there that's feasible to get to market. Pat will be making some arrangements and contacting y'all to let you know when we need to schedule the meeting. We're planning on, before it gets too cold, before the weather changes drastically or any of those situations, we're planning on trying to have it fairly soon.
Commissioner Church, we may, certainly also engage the chamber or any of those, promotional events to get everyone out there. I think that's
And that's kind of what we talked about, is it's just in the planning phase, so we do have time to get it scheduled and get it out, so, however we need to do it, we'll be able to make that happen.
And so Mike, if I'm following the schedule, it will be a year. 2016, we will not be able to occupy.
That is the anticipated. I mean, weather's gonna have a lot to do with that. The general contractor that comes in and actually signs a contract, a lot of it will be dependent on their availability also.
And is that typical for a project this size? To me, that just sounds like a long time, but
It
just know my
depends on the
expertise
general.
is none.
I know they were wanting to be in over a year ago. We put it out for bid. More likely it'd probably go to the agency here locally, and I'm presuming David will get it out to everybody. We could have everybody come in and want to bid this project, even though it's not really that large of a project. The general contractor's gonna have a lot of say on how long it takes. This is just an estimate.
So would it do us well to keep the general contractor local? And I know we're bound by the statute really around that, but to keeping it local, because I find that obviously their integrity is obviously tied to how long these projects take. There's local incentive for that to happen.
That would have been great, especially with the courthouse.
I would agree, that's what I'm thinking.
Our hands are tied, I mean, as far as.
You know, there is a law that I believe you can give 3% preference, but they have to have a report that shows that it's gonna add jobs to their company by doing that and have a significant impact on their business if you can do that. That's the only law I know of, and I don't know if you can use it in construction. I know you can on some other stuff.
Okay, thank
There's
you.
really nothing else.
There's some good local companies that could do this project.
Absolutely.
Okay. The next page being the Excel Retro Commissioning Project. Nick had visited with Travis Brown, our local agent, here a while back. We are just waiting on a report to come back from the welding company. The Excel Standard Offer Rebate Program, I visited with Tanya Milan with Excel, and they're still waiting to hear back from that. That was back in June, was the last time we got action on that. District Court's building security projects over there. This is one of them that you approved within the budget workshops. A lighting project. Visited with the electrical contractor last week. He's already started work on gearing up, getting all the materials and stuff ready. So hopefully between this week and next week, you ought to see some activity over there in the Lassenburg. What I'd like to do is go back to the third page where we had the actual hail damage projects, the Santa Fe building. The uplighting that we have been working on for quite some time with our electrical contractor. I've got just a brief slideshow I'd like to present to you to show you what the top of the building is going to look like, kind of carry you through this. Like I said, we was hoping to have had this completed some time ago. Getting the materials in, we had to tear part of the roof off in order to proceed forward. So what you're seeing right here is what is referenced to as a prairie fire. This was the historic color for which we were accustomed to when we purchased the property to give the burning effect of a prairie fire on top of the building. This right here is another one of the prairie fire, just from a little different angle. These also were shot with different cameras. Just a little further away, this right here is looking at it from the top of the district court's building. Within this, we've got 39 LED programmable lights up there. We can put just about any color on top of the building you choose to for any type of season or holiday, whatever it may be. We just went through, put some schemes together to let y'all look at. Some of them can be a still shot of a picture as far as a light lamping on the building. The other ones, we can actually have them flash and do all kinds of things. This right here, representing your holidays. Valentine's Day, total red. Just from different angles, different sizes. St. Patrick's Day. This right here is one of my favorites, the prestigious spots. You really got to see this building at nighttime. It sets the architecture off. You got the 4th of July, and these right here were some of the best photos. You can put a red, white, and blue on top of the building. And then water do you want?
That's what it's really snowing.
Yeah. Here's one that's got multiple colors all around the building. Okay, I'm going to show this to you. This right here is one of the automations of the Prairie Fire, which you can see. Really look at the building, you see the lights change color.
You just set what you want for that particular evening, or?
We can set it up on a schedule, program, and Nick will be the gentleman that'll be the one responsible to do all this coordination. We can set it up and leave it any color you want. You can see it.
Cannot be Red Sox logo.
I've got something to show you, one of the last ones. This right here is New Year's Eve. Pretty dark. Just about, this will be the top of the Texas Panhandle. The building was originally, back in 1930 when this built, was referenced as the jewel of the Texas Panhandle. Later in years, people remember the red beacon light that's on top of the building. It's had many references through the year. I guarantee what we can do right now at the top of the building is going to once again set off the building for the entire Texas Panhandle. It's going to be something weird. So if you got any requests, turn them in to Mr. Wood. He'll be glad to take them.
The Red Sox might
Something with the Red Sox
need
logo.
commissioner approval.
I just want to make you aware of this because, you know, as we start changing the lighting on the building just throughout the year and stuff, in case you get calls, if these are just some of the sequences that we bring.
The fire department's not called on one of those.
Actually, I got called out Friday night because somebody thought, they really thought they saw the building was on fire.
There you go.
There was a malfunction with one of the lights. It wasn't sparking, it was doing what it was supposed to do. So anyway, yeah, we have had some calls though. It's funny you say that.
And that was Friday?
Yeah, Friday night, 10 o'clock.
Too early for the people coming out of the bars.
It actually was people coming out of the bar. I wasn't here.
Who responded to it?
Chris did.
Mike, I have just two comments. Good job with your technology up there, very impressive. I was up here peaching Commissioner Kelly and said, look at Mike up there, quite proud of him. The PowerPoint guy. And second, in terms of the flashing lights, are there any restrictions since we sit off of major highways in terms of what can be flashing on?
I don't think you're gonna tell that. I think with that level 2 is where that was. 2 seconds apart is a flash. You know, if we went to 6 seconds, it's really gonna be slower. So we don't see that being.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Good job, Mike.
So does anyone have any questions on the project? Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, item number 16, contract renewal. Consider an act upon renewing the county courthouse chiller maintenance contract with Carrier Commercial Service for an additional year utilizing TIPS agreement number 02032212. Right.
Yeah, this is our chiller maintenance contract on the chillers over here in the equipment room. And the price isn't going up from last year, and it's the same company and Carrier, and I believe the chillers are Carrier brands, so there's no change to the contract or the maintenance schedule.
Just a continuation of the current contract. Next year, we'll look to, we may have to put it out for bid, but we'll look to make this a full service contract next year, and those are costs that I don't need to buy. Just asking for your approval.
Make a motion that we approve the renewing of the county courthouse chiller maintenance contract with Carrier Commercial Services for an additional year, utilizing TIPS agreement number 02032212.
Second. Okay, it's been motion and seconded to approve the renewing of the county courthouse chiller maintenance contract with Carrier Commercial Service for an additional year, utilizing the TIPS agreement. heard forthwith. Those in favor, show of hands. Passes 4-0. Okay, item number 17, employment items. To consider acting upon the following employment items. A, facilities maintenance, the termination of Rose Marie Chorn, custodian 1, effective August 13th of this year.
Make a motion that we approve the termination as stated.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the termination as stated in the agenda items. Those in favor, show of hands. Passes 4-0. Item number 18 is to hold an executive session if necessary on the above agenda items as allowed by chapter 551 Texas Government Code. And
No, but there is an addendum to the agenda for executive session on the contract. I'm going to take that now or after the budget discussion.
Probably after the
Yeah.
meeting, that's okay.
Nothing needed on that.
Item 19 is the jail report. It's the hear report from Potter County Detention Center and to act any action necessary. The total that we have as of date is 475 in the jail and 84 of that total are women. Okay, and all are localized, nothing was less. Item 20, any county insurance items, nothing new. Okay, let's go back to item 9. Budget tax rate for fiscal year 2014-2015. A is to adopt to conduct a public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2014-2015 and make any appropriate changes in the proposed budget. B, at the conclusion of the public hearing is to adopt the final budget for fiscal year 2014-2015 and budgets for the Potter County special funds. Item C is after adoption of the budget to recommend a proposed tax rate for the M&O debt service for fiscal year 2014-2015 to confirm dates for our 2 public hearings on the tax rate and to confirm a date for a final vote adopting a tax rate. Okay. This time we'll select item A and conduct the public